Okay, in this last video we're going to be looking at budgetary policy measures designed to target efficiency, and that can stem from two different things. One, policies designed to reduce the incidence of demerit goods, and two, subsidising merit goods to try and promote more resources being allocated towards merit goods. So in terms of budgetary policy measures to target efficiency, the budget includes a whole range of policies to try and boost technical efficiency. So that's about trying to promote increased productivity, and that includes spending on infrastructure to try and improve the efficiency of roads, rails and ports, giving tax concessions or subsidies to invest in technology, so giving basically saying that companies will give them cash or that they have to pay less tax if they have certain forms of investment into technology or training or research and development. The budget can also be used to target allocative efficiency, so they can target technical efficiency through those different measures, including infrastructure spending, spending on training, spending on new technology, or they can target allocative efficiency by trying to reallocate resources away from areas that are undesirable for society, so like demerit goods, and towards the production of merit goods or goods that are less harmful for society. So the budget can be used to target allocative efficiency by reallocating resources away from the production of demerit goods, which are bad for society's living standards, and into the production of merit goods, and we'll talk about what that means in a second. So demerit goods are goods considered to be undesirable for society and are typically produced and consumed in excessive quantities without government regulation. So in a free market, there will be an over-allocation of resources to things like cigarettes, alcohol, recreational drugs, and that's bad for allocative efficiency because it can lead to incidents of crime and violence, and in the case of cigarettes, passive smoking and the health costs associated with that. So what they do is, one thing they can do is they can put an excise tax on these things. The excise tax is for the producer, so it shifts the supply curve to the left because it leads to a higher cost of production, and then we end up with a lower quantity smoked of these cigarettes or alcohol because of the higher price contracting demand. So ways to reduce the market failure: strictly prohibiting the production and consumption of drugs. So with many illicit drugs, they're completely illegal. Indirect taxes placed on consumers' expenditure. So these taxes are placed on the production of demerit goods, then passed on in the form of higher prices. The aim of the tax is to reduce the production and consumption of demerit goods. So because the relative price is increased, that encourages consumers to substitute into relatively cheaper products and smoke less or consume less of the alcohol. The lower demand then leads to lower production volumes, and producers reallocate their resources away from the production of demerit goods. So because of the higher prices, that then leads to lower demands and lower production volumes, and resources will move away from these demerit goods, is the intention. The problem with these indirect taxes, even though they help efficiency by reducing the incidence of smoking and alcohol consumption, they have regressive effects. These taxes generally apply to addictive products, and these taxes make up a higher proportion of low-income earners' salaries. So a 20% increase in tobacco prices, for example, will hurt low-income earners more because, one, it makes up a higher proportion of their income, and two, because of the inelastic demand, they're often likely to still consume a similar quantity of these products, and therefore it hurts low-income earners because it makes up a higher proportion of their income. So the regressive nature of indirect taxes is an example of a trade-off that occurs between trying to promote more efficiency, which can hurt equity because of the regressive effects, but it helps efficiency by reducing the incidence of smoking and alcohol consumption. So e.g., the tax might make up 10% of a low-income earner's salary, but only 1% of a high-income earner's salary. Most indirect taxes, including GST, fuel, cigarettes, etc., are regressive and therefore hurt low-income earners. The luxury car tax is the only example of an indirect tax that mainly hurts high-income earners, given that they're the only ones that are likely to purchase these cars, and can lead to a more equitable distribution of income. Often indirect taxes are ineffective because they're trying to curb demand for these products, but because they're on inelastic products, as for example, a 20% increase in the price will generally reduce demand by less than 20%. So the inelastic nature of these products mean that excise taxes on alcohol and tobacco are very effective in generating revenue for the government because they collect a lot more tax because people still smoke and still consume alcohol, but they're not very effective in promoting efficiency because they don't limit the smoking and alcohol consumption. So it could be argued that they still help efficiency because the money raised from the tax can then be used to promote efficiency in other ways by like subsidising education, running quick campaigns, etc. So the tax might not be that effective in reducing consumption directly, but we can use the tax that it raises to promote efficiency in other areas. But it still is an example of a trade-off trying to promote efficiency that can hurt equity. Okay, in terms of merit goods, the government can provide subsidies. So subsidies refer to benefits provided by individuals or groups to support certain activities. They often come in cash payments, but they can also be like tax concessions for investing in certain things where companies have to pay less tax if they invest in research and development. And they lead to a reallocation of resources towards the goods being subsidised. By lowering the price, it helps to encourage consumption of these products. So merit goods are goods that are ultimately good for consumers and that are generally under-allocated within society. So that includes things like health services, public parks, renewable energy, vaccinations, education, public transport. All of these things would be under-allocated in a free market because they can't generate enough profit from these products, or people might not be willing to pay the price that they would be charged. So some merit goods like public parks are provided by the government free of charge, or schools or hospitals, while others are subsidised to try and allocate more resources to these areas. Both subsidising these goods and providing them will help to increase consumption. So there's two different types of subsidies. You can give a subsidy to a producer, and that is designed to reduce the cost of production for the producer. So basically, if you've got a demand and supply curve, that would help to shift the supply curve to the right and lead to lower prices, and then that will help to increase consumption because of the lower price, and more resources will be reallocated to its production because it's cheaper to produce and therefore more profitable. So that helps to be more resources to be allocated to that particular product because it's cheaper and lower cost of production for consumers and more demand from, lower cost of production for producers and more demand from consumers as well. They can also give subsidies to consumers, and basically that works in a different way. If you're looking at the demand and supply diagram, that's likely to shift the demand curve to the right because people are getting money back from buying these goods and services. So subsidising consumers for purchasing certain merit goods makes them cheaper, and this helps to raise the demand for these merit goods. And the increased price encourages producers to allocate more resources to production, and society is better off because more people will now buy those products. So for example, if you get a rebate or a subsidy of $300 for installing a water tank, it's an incentive to to buy one, and then more people will buy water tanks. Businesses will raise their prices because of the increased demand, and overall more people will have water tanks, which is better off for society. Thank you.